here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
You know, this is the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
Is anyone at home?
Oh, that must be my mother.
Is anything wrong?
Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from?
She looked like a wrong one to you?
It's not as if she were a maniac. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
How's it going? So Psycho. Wow. This movie, like, I don't know what horror would be without it. A lot of people say that it gave rise to the slasher genre, and I totally agree with them. Um, Alfred Hitchcock was a genius. If he was still alive today, I think he'd be putting all sorts of stuff out that would just be blowing people's minds. Um, he had a knack for making people scared of stuff that they weren't usually scared of, like birds. And after this movie, Showers. Um, yeah, it's phenomenal. It was so inspirational to writers and people in horror movies, and uh, the entire genre is just kind of owes so much to this movie. Uh, Anthony Perkins did a great job playing Norman Bates. He pulled off the boy next door kind of vibe, but you could tell there was something off with him. Janet Leigh was phenomenal too, and as you know, if you're a horror fan, uh, her daughter is also in a very inspirational set of horror movies, slashers. Jamie Lee Curtis is her biological daughter from who played Laurie Strode in Halloween, and then the newest ones that just came out, Halloween, and then Halloween Kills, and then next year be Halloween Ends. So yeah, they're part of the horror family, and Janet Leigh was phenomenal too. Like I said, it's just the I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, just a rundown. It begins with this lady. She's secretary for this looks like real estate type business. Well, this guy comes in, makes a huge purchase, uh, leaves 40,000 in cash. Back then, that was, I'm sure, a ton of money back in 1960. So instead of depositing it, she takes said money and runs off with it. Um, and at the same time, she's kind of seeing this married guy on the side. She's not a good person. Let's just put it that way. So when you see the movie, you shouldn't really feel too bad for what happens to her. Not that she deserved it or anything. Um, but yeah, it's just creepy. Uh, the shower scene is one of the most iconic scenes in horror film and even in the slasher genre. Though this was like the great great grandfather to slashers compared to back then as they are known as today. Um, but and apparently, what was funny at the time, the shower scene wasn't controversial. The most controversial part of this movie to people at the time when it came out in 1960 was the fact that it showed Janet Leigh, oh my God, flushing the toilet. Like she tore up some pieces of paper about the money she stole, like what she spent already because she bought a car with cash and traded her old one in, and she tore it up in little pieces and flushed it down the toilet. That was the controversial part back then. Not the fact that not long after that she gets massacred in the shower um, by a killer with a knife, But no, can't flush the toilet. That's just too much. I don't know. People were kind of nuts back then. And yeah, so basically, getting back to the story, she runs off with the money, goes to this motel. There's this house on the hill. I'm sure you've seen the image before. It's pretty iconic. Finds this guy named Norman that runs the motel, and he's talking about his mother that lives in the house, and he has to take care of her. And then there's a part where she goes outside and she kind of sees like the silhouette of a woman in the window and hears people talking. And then later on, her sister and like an investigator go see, and they kind of hear the same stuff, and then they kind of figure out what's going on. Long story short, and this isn't really a spoiler since I'm sure you've heard the story, there is no mother. There was at some point, but mother has been dead for many years. And Norman decided to remove her body and take it in the house. And yeah, and he adopts her personality, hence being psychopath. He hears her voice in his head. She kind of does things through him. Basically, it's kind of like anytime there's a woman around that he's attracted to or shows him a slight bit of affection or interest, the mother personality comes out, just kills her, or whoever it happens to be, anybody that's threatening Norman's livelihood. I would highly suggest watching the Bates Motel show. It was on AMC. It was phenomenal. I've been using that word a lot, phenomenal. It was great. The casting was great. Frankie, I forget his name, British guy, Hightower, I think, Highmore, something like that. He was awesome as Norman. Just super creepy. It had some humor in it too. And Vera Farmiga was in it, plays Norman's mom. Not only is she a super hottie, she pulled the role off fantastically too. She was overprotective of Norman, but she had her own kind of issues as well. Yeah, I highly recommend checking it out. It is different than the movie does, but it's got more characters than the movie series does. Speaking of movie series, there was a second one and a third one for this one. Then they kind of did a prequel. They get progressively worse as it goes on. And then there's the remake. Came out in 1998, 99. Vince Vaughn plays Norman. To me, I grew up, I was in college, went old school, and all that came out. So I've always just thought of him as comedy. And when I rented this on DVD one day, I watched it and I was like, I can't see him in the room and not laugh. And Anne Hesh plays Janet Leigh's part. No, Janet Leigh was super hottie, a good actress, very classy individual. I don't really get that vibe from Anne Hesh, sorry, but I don't know. It tried to own up to what Psycho was, the original, but it just kind of failed. There's really no need to remake it. And there's this really awkward part where Norman, and this is a remake, where he's spying on her in the shower, and it's kind of quiet. You don't hear much music, but you hear like this sound in the background. I'm sure you know what's going on, and it's just kind of unnecessary and silly. So I don't know. They tried, like I said, but it's just nothing really lives up to the original with this one. There was really no need to remake it. And here's a clip that I'll end with that just sort of shows the total genius of Anthony Perkins in this role and how manipulative and he can play innocence and kind of, like I said, you can tell he's got some issues going on as this speech continues, and he's talking about, he doesn't want to put his mother in an institution, and it's got the famous "we all go a little mad sometimes" line to it. So yeah, check this out.
You understand? I don't hate her. I hate what she's become. I hate the illness.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution? A madhouse? People always call a madhouse someplace, don't they? Put her in someplace.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound uncaring.
What do you know about caring? Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears, and the cruel eyes studying you. My mother there? But she's harmless. She's as harmless as one of those stuffed birds.
I am sorry. I only felt... It seems she's hurting you. I meant well.
People always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and shake their heads and suggest oh so very delicately. Of course, I've suggested it myself. But I hate to even think about it. She needs me. It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
So yeah, like I said, that was just a little clip showing the character of Norman Bates. It's a great movie, and nothing was really like it at the time. And it's got great music too, not just the infamous like ying 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 scene during the music during the shower scene, but the part where the character of Janet Leigh is driving around and she's kind of thinking of like people talking to her and like what's going on, what they're saying after she's taken the money. That's just kind of playing in the background as she's driving around. It's got like this sort of creepy like do 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 like kind of theme that goes around every time she thinks that she's going to get caught and stuff like that. So yeah, like I'm sure at the time I would have loved to go back in time and seen this in the theater during its release. Because back then, you know, you didn't have the internet, didn't have spoilers, and I could just imagine my reaction at the end of the movie when the big reveal and you realize, yeah, there is no mother. Um, and yeah, Anthony Perkins did a great job. Like I said, there's really no need to remake it. See the remake if you want, but it doesn't really hold up to the original. And like the sequels are okay. By the time it gets to the third one, it just gets a little silly, as most movie sequels do. But and then the fourth one, I think it might have been a TV movie. It was kind of a prequel. It shows what happens up until sort of that leads to the first film. So yeah, definitely check it out. I'd give it 5 out of 5 stars just for its significance in the horror and suspense genre and how awesome Alfred Hitchcock was. So see you next time.